Hi everyone, I'm Jordan, I'm an alcoholic. It doesn't get any easier. I'm just as nervous as I was when I shared for my 1 year, and I shared at this meeting as well. And I'm just filled with a lot of gratitude today, and thank you so much for cheering for me, Laura, and thank you to everyone who's managed to be here today. Hopefully I can share some form of message. I've just come back from Cape Town and it was incredible. I sort of had this out-of-body experience where I was there and I was with my family and everything was just so different to my experience of being with my family, being in Cape Town, my motives for being there, and it was just a complete 360 and I celebrated my 4-year milestone there. And my family made quite a fuss of it, which was really special. My sister made me a cake and everything. And it was just incredible, and my sister even said to me she can't believe the person I am today and how far I've come, and it's truly inspirational. And for her to say that is really special because she didn't talk to me for months before I came into treatment, and while I was in treatment our relationship was very rocky, and the fact that I've been able to make amends and I helped her move, and she's pregnant now and going to have a baby, and I'm going to be part of that. That's something special. That's nothing that I could have done on my own because that's not who I am. That's all due to this program and my higher power. So I've had a lot of gratitude around this time, and it's just really special to me. I got to share my 4 years in Cape Town. My sponsor got to chair for me on my 4 years, which is also just incredible. And there's so much I can be grateful for today. So I'm just going to start from what it was like and sort of where I came from, a bit of a history, a bit of a background. So I grew up in a very loving home. I have an amazing family, and they really provided for me. I went to good schools. There was nothing that happened to me that could have made me the way I was. I was definitely born alcoholic. And the reason I know that for a fact is because when I look back now at how I was as a young child, I wasn't okay. I wasn't like the other young children. I struggled a lot with everything. I struggled socially. I always felt very socially awkward. I struggled to make friends and talk to people, and I was lost. I was awkward and lost, and I couldn't cope with things that normal people could cope with, like going to school and being part of things. It all just completely overwhelmed me. And that was from a young kid. That's my furthest memory, just not being okay. And thinking that was maybe normal, maybe everyone was not okay, but there was definitely something especially not okay about me. And growing up, I had an amazing childhood when it comes to all the external things. I come from a very wealthy family and we would travel a lot, and I got given all the opportunities and it was incredible, but the way I reacted to all of that stuff wasn't okay. And that's the alcoholism, because that's before even picking up any substance. My dishonesties, the way I was, the way I manipulated people, the way I would get obsessed with things, and when I was obsessed with that one thing, whether it be computer games or whatever it was, that would be my focus. Nothing else mattered. It was that. And then one day would come and I would get over that thing I was obsessed with and I would move on to the next thing. And that's what I was like. And unfortunately, I was never obsessed with schoolwork. So I didn't do very well in school. It was always kind of pushing through. From 7 years old, I was put on mood and mind altering substances to try and help me concentrate in school. And it was just an ongoing thing from there. So that's how I grew up. It was painful. I don't have many good memories. I have fond memories of certain times that I had that were fun, and then the majority of it is just painful. Just me not fitting in and not coping. Yesterday actually, because my parents they sold their house and they're living on a boat now, they gave me a box of stuff. That was all my stuff from my school years and from my childhood, and I was going through it yesterday, and it overwhelmed me because, first of all, I didn't remember a lot of that stuff, and the stuff that I did remember brought up unhealthy feelings. I didn't feel comfortable about that stuff, and I don't think that's normal. I think anyone looking through a box of their childhood would be like, oh wow, that's my childhood, So that's definitely displaying alcoholism at a young age. And then so I kind of scraped through school. When I was 13 years old, I got very sick and I was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, which again, not normal. I thought that was great. I thought, oh, this is an amazing excuse now to get attention and all of that. And I was put on really strong painkillers. And I was told, you only use these when you're in a lot of pain. And the reason we're giving them to you is because we don't want you to suffer, you know. So the alcoholic of my type started acting like I was in pain all the time so I could take the meds because they made me feel different. And I don't even remember them making me feel good. I just remember them making me feel different and fuzzy and like I don't have to cope with my emotions. And that was fantastic to me. So that sort of took me down a rabbit hole where throughout my whole teenage life I was taking medication. And that was like a fix. A pill could fix anything. And I would feel sorry for people that didn't have that option, was where I was at. So yeah, struggled with high school, never did good in sport or school or anything like that. Had a massive resentment even from then for my sister because she excelled very well when it came to academics, sports, socially. Like she was still is an all-round incredible human being. And the difference that I have today than I had then is today I can see that my sister's a human being. You know what I'm saying? She's very good at things and she deserves what she's got because she's worked really hard for it and I'm really proud of her. But back then I didn't feel that way. I just felt resentment and anger because I didn't see her as a human being. I saw her as this thing that was put in my life to make me seem inadequate. and that's how I viewed it, and that's where sort of my warped perception around that was, and I hated her. And that's a strong word, but I did not like my sister, and it's not okay, but that's how I was, and I was very horrible to her, and she always tried to be nice to me, and then, yeah, she started getting over that pretty quickly. And I also had quite a deep-seated resentment for my father, because he was quite homophobic growing up, and I knew at quite a young age that I was gay, and that he wouldn't accept me, and I'd had this idea in my head that, okay, so we're just not going to like him. And then I had a very unhealthy codependent relationship with my mother. So I could manipulate my mom to get anything I wanted, and that happened all the way up until my mom went into Al-Anon, like literally, into my 20s. I could, regardless of what was going on or what she thought was right for me, if I wanted something, she would enable me to get that. And she would lie to my dad, and it was very unhealthy, but that's what I do to people. I make people around me sick. So I was taking pills and stuff. I wasn't a big drinker or user of substance. I was actually quite anti like drugs and alcohol when I was in high school. I don't know why, but I just was. But I hadn't really tried it properly. And when I did try my first drink, I remember feeling different. Again, not feeling that good, but different. And I enjoyed that feeling and not being able to stop. And I remember band practices when we would have it at my house. I was in a band in high school with Jess. And we used to drink, and that's what it all became about. It wasn't really about, like we enjoyed the music and we would play and stuff, but it for me became more about, these are people that I can drink with, and we'd steal alcohol from my parents, and I wouldn't stop. I wouldn't know when to stop. And that didn't happen like regularly, but when it did happen, my memory of that is that I would drink until I was sick. Like I never had an off switch. I could never just have one or two. Whereas other people would be like, okay, well, I'm just going to have like a little bit because, we have school tomorrow or something like that. And that wasn't my experience. I didn't care. Well, I was powerless, I suppose. And I'm kind of fuzzy around the rest of high school. Obviously didn't do too well and scraped through. Don't know how I matriculated, but I did. I'm grateful I did. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do after school. I had absolutely no idea. I had no motivation to do anything. I was sort of lost. And it confused me that other people knew what they wanted to do. They were like, oh no, I'm going to study medicine. I'm going to study this. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to decide what I'm going to do? And on top of that, it overwhelmed me, this whole going and studying something and becoming a grown-up and working and paying bills. Like, it's not something I wanted to be a part of. I just wanted to be enabled my whole life, and where my entitlement was is I didn't believe I should have to do that like everyone else should. But I did, I had to do that, obviously. So I decided to study music because it was one thing I was kind of good at and one thing that I enjoyed, and my dad sort of said to me, okay, that's fine, you can study that, and after that you're going to come work for me, and that's going to be the plan. And my dad loves his plans. To this day, he's got his 5-year plans, his 10-year plans, and I'm unmanageable. So I was like, okay, I'll go with your plan. and then my studying for music was a 3-year course. And I did really well in the first year. And in the second year, I started using with the people who were using. I started not going to classes, and it was sort of like school all over again. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It sort of took the fun out of it, and I wanted to have fun. And I failed the second year. And they were like, okay, well, either you need to redo a few subjects, or you need to, because you can't go into the third year, or you need to redo the whole second year or whatever. And I didn't like that. I started resenting the college I was with, so I decided that I was going to not finish it and go and work for my dad. And at that point, things were quite rocky with me and my dad because he knew I wasn't 100% okay, but he didn't know exactly what was going on, and he was convinced that I just needed a stable job and I needed to get on with my life and then everything would be okay. And he used to say that to me. He was like, you need to grow up now. He would always say that. You need to stop messing around. You need to get a job. You need to, get on with it. And I thought that's what I needed to do as well. So I tried that, and again, for the first year, I excelled at it really well. I got on with people at work. Like, by the time the second year came, it was the same thing again. I got over it, and I started arriving to work late. I started using a lot on the weekends and not managing to get to work on time, and waking up and it was Tuesday and missed calls on my phone, and just unmanageability. And kind of getting away with it in a sense because I was the boss's son and I was young and I don't know. So anyway, that went on while I was working there. By this time, like, my dad knew I was gay, he was okay with it. He had gotten through all of his stuff and he was trying really hard and being like the best dad he could be. And today I'm really grateful for that because he's an incredible father and he's only ever loved and accepted me. So all of my ideas I had of him and my sister were all wrong. And I only saw that when I did step 4. Then things kind of started derailing for me from there. I was unable to hold things together. I was hanging out with all the people who were like me. And my kidneys weren't doing too well because I was abusing substance and I was on street drugs at this point and just making terrible decisions. And I've got lots of war stories I could share about, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to take too much time doing that. But it wasn't normal what was going on, and I was kind of aware of that. There was a point where I was arrested and got out of it somehow, but it was very traumatic. I was put in the back of a police van and taken on a joyride, and there was just chaos going on. Then my left kidney failed, and I was actually at work this day, and I just went yellow. And I didn't know I'd gone yellow because I was drilling behind my computer, high, obviously, and the receptionist came up to me and she was like, Jordan, you're yellow, you don't look well, you've got like dark circles under your eyes, like, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm phoning your mother, like, this is not okay. And she phoned my mom, and mom came there, and it was all a big drama, and anyway, my left kidney ended up blocking and I had sepsis and all of this, and I almost died at that point. But I was okay, I went in for surgery and everything, and this was quite a pivotal moment for me because what happened was, the anaesthetist came to me and he said, okay, so it's quite a big surgery. You're going to be out for quite a long time. When you come around, you're going to be very fuzzy. You might be a bit nauseous. I'm putting you on a lot of like morphine and stuff like that. So, but you're going to be okay. I promise you're not going to be in pain. And I was like, okay, cool. Because that was like my biggest fear, was being in pain. And I woke up from that surgery and I was in writhing pain. I was like not okay. I was in a lot of pain, and it was due to the fact that I was so like immune to whatever substances they were giving me, because I was using so much and abusing so much prescription medication out there. And it was kind of a shock to my system, because I didn't think that that was like something that could be possible, but it was. And that was sort of my first rock bottom moment, where I decided, okay, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go home, I'm going to start going to work, I'm going to stop using, I'm going to get my life together now, that's it. Like I've had it. I had a few events that had happened that kind of scared me, because I had no control over it. And amazingly, like a few days later, I was using again. And I had absolutely no idea why. There was nothing going on for me. Everything was going really well. I was feeling better. Like everything was fine. Why am I using again? Like I don't get it. Like, and there was no thought process behind it. It was just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go use a bit now, and then I can stop. And then that sort of took me down a whole nother rabbit hole, where eventually I had a flatmate who was also inactive at the time, and had all these random people in my flat, and they had all like passed out, and they were like, and I remember it quite vividly, there were just bodies like lying around, and the PlayStation was like on, and there was music, and the neighbors were getting cut for and all of that. And I was like on my own, right? I was awake and I was still using, and I'd used more than everyone else there, and I had people around me, and I felt completely alone. And it was like an aha moment, where it was like a sobering moment, like what are you doing? This is not okay. And that's when I decided I needed help. And I went onto the internet and I found a treatment facility in the South Coast. And I decided that this is where I'm going for 21 days, because that's what medical aid will pay for, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to do it. And then I confronted my mom, and I said, Mom, I need to go to rehab, so I'm going to go for this 21-day program. And she was like quite distraught and everything, but she was supportive. And she said, we need to expose to your father everything that's been going on. Because my mom kind of knew what was going on, but my dad wasn't around a lot, so he didn't really know. He picked up bits and pieces, but he didn't know the extent. Like my mom had caught me, and I had a guitar case that was full of paraphernalia, and she like found it the one day, and she was always lying to my dad about all of that stuff. And at this point, she was like, I'm not lying anymore. We need to tell your dad what's going on. So we sat down with him. I sort of exposed what was going on, not all the details, but I said to him, like, I have a drug problem, I'm not okay, and I need to go to treatment, and I'm going to go to this place for 21 days. And he just lost it, eh? He completely lost his cool. He wasn't okay with this. I was a disappointment and all of that. And then he got on the phone with someone from the treatment center and made the decision that I needed to go for 3 months, which I wasn't very happy about, because that's just too long a time, you know. But anyway, there was nothing I could do. He took the car keys, took the flats away. He said, if you're going to do this, you're doing it my way, and you're going for 3 months, and you've lost your job, and you've this, and you've that. And that's just the kind of, you know, man he is, which I don't blame him at all for being like that. So I went into treatment, and I think the first thing I remember, and my biggest sort of pivotal moment when it comes to being introduced to AA and the fellowship, being in treatment, was that everyone was like happy and getting on with it. And even though people were going through this, like people weren't behaving the way that I've always behaved, and people were listening and doing step work and working hard and sharing about stuff that I could relate to, and I'd never been exposed to any of that in my life. I found that incredible. I remember thinking, like, this is amazing. Like, look at these people, they're all here and they're all trying to get better, and they're sharing my story. And that blew me away, because I never knew people thought the way I did, and I never knew it was there was a place that you could talk about that stuff. Talk about using, talk about your powerlessness, and talk about the humbling things. For me it was always ego-driven, like I need to protect that side of me, and I must never expose it. So there was definitely a huge weight lifted off my shoulders at that time in treatment, because I was like, oh wow, okay, I'm definitely in the right place because I'm like these people. And I'm really grateful for that. I don't know if that's like a normal thing. I don't know if people relate to that, but that was my experience. I was like, wow, these are my people. You know what I mean? And I felt safe. And from the start, I enjoyed treatment. I really did. There were difficult moments. There were concern groups and difficult people, and there were trying times. But yeah, I have fond memories of my time in treatment. I really do. When I sat down to do my step 5 with my sponsor, and I had all these justified resentments that I believed were justified, and it was to my sister, because I believed she was the reason I am the way I am, and my dad, and it was all this mad stuff that I had convinced myself over the years about my perception around that stuff. And it's amazing how when he gave me his perspective on it and my behavior, and I can relate it to the reading this morning, like whenever I'm angry, it's got something to do with myself. And I remember being disturbed by that, but also being like super enlightened by it. Like, oh my word, I don't have to actually blame people anymore. I can take responsibility. And I think that's the biggest hurdle I had to face in early recovery, is taking responsibility for the fact that I am where I am because of me. I've actually done a lot of damage to the people that I think have done damage to me who actually haven't. They've only ever tried to help me, and I'm not okay. And I need a 12-step program in my life. And that's sort of what I got out of step 5. And there was also this sort of impending doom of how am I going to change it? Like, there's been so much damage, how am I going to change all of this? It almost felt impossible to me. So there was the pink cloud, and then oh my God, how am I going to change this moment after my step 5? But it was a pivotal moment for me in treatment. And then after that, I started doing pretty well, and I became house leader and all of that, and I decided somewhere along the line that I'm going to follow suggestions. I'm going to follow every suggestion that comes to me. And my suggestion was to stay another month, and then stay another month, and then stay another month. And eventually I'd been in treatment for 5.5 months. And I got to the point where I didn't want to leave anymore. I was so comfortable in that treatment environment, and I was so happy, and I was so fearful of the outside world that I was quite happy if I just stayed in treatment forever. And I even had the insanity going on in my head of I'm such a good house leader, maybe they should just employ me straight away and I'll just be the house leader forever, because I'm look how good I am, there's my arrogance. But that's what I thought, because I still had that thing, I don't want to go out and be in the real world. I'm just checking time. Because it overwhelmed me still. And due to that, because I always knew I would need to go back and work for my dad, because I'm inadequate, right? I can't do anything on my own. I need to work for him, and that way I can make lots of money and everything's sort of going to be okay. That was what I thought needed to happen, and it made sense to me. So when my sponsor said to me, look, I don't think you should go back and work for your dad. I don't think that's good for you. I think you need to study something and build your own life for yourself. I think that's important for your self-worth and your self-esteem. I struggled with that. That was one suggestion, probably the most difficult one for me to follow. I was now I'm going to go to the halfway house and get a waitering job, and how's this all going to work, And what made that worse is my dad was you're not doing that. No ways, that doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. You need to come and work for me. And then he put a whole lot of things in place. But if you do X, Y, Z. So I don't know, I was still willing to go with that route. And it ended up with both my parents coming up to the treatment facility and having that conversation with my sponsor and disagreeing. And I remember sitting there being oh my God, what is going on here? And then eventually, I saw my dad kind of concede defeat. He was well, you know what, I've tried to help Jordan my whole life, and he's sitting in rehab, so maybe we should try something different. and that terrified me. But I'm grateful for it, because when I went down to the halfway house and I got a humble job and I started working and earning my own money, like I think the first shift I ever worked, someone gave me like a 50 Rand note. And I remember being like, this is the first 50 Rand that I've ever actually earned, like worked for, and thought to like, I deserve this, you know, not just like it's owed to me, because that was how I was before. And there was something about that like excited me, like, oh, I did this on my own, you know, obviously with the help of a sponsor, program and higher power. And then I worked there for a year, and I came up to my year in the halfway house, and then it was time for me to go. And everything was really good, you know. I had a really, really good first year of recovery. There was the sort of yo-yo up and down, which I think we all go through in early recovery, of like, okay, I'm going to be of service, I'm going to do everything I need to do, and I'm so spiritually fit, and then I start feeling okay, so I stop doing what I need to do, and then I get into a mess, and then I need to start doing it again. But other than that, everything was pretty chilled. Like, I followed all the suggestions. And then after my first year, I met someone who was in treatment who I liked, and he liked me, and that was like a whole different thing that I'd never really properly experienced before, of something that made me feel really good, like really, really good. And nothing else mattered. It was like, okay, well, I need to get this person, and we need to be together, and we're going to get married, and we're going to live this amazing life, and that's what's got to happen. And yeah, it was a difficult time, because it completely blindsided me, and I stopped following those suggestions. Everyone in Scotland was telling me, Jordan, this isn't a good idea, you need to stay away. We were on multiple comm bans. I was on a halfway house ban when that person was in the halfway house. And my behavior around that stuff was not okay, but I couldn't see it. I was in it. You know what I mean? I was completely in it. And eventually that person got kicked out of the halfway house, which had something to do with me, and I went to the rescue, and so we got into a relationship. And the reason I'm sharing this is because it's such a big part of my journey, and it helped me grow so much. It's probably my biggest learning point in recovery, was this relationship, because we were together for quite a while. We were together for a year. And for the first few months, things were okay. Like, there were red flags, you know, the biggest one being me being with someone who's under a year, which is not okay. And me feeling like the whole of Scotland ostracized me, really, when actually I separated myself. And things like that I was just missing, you know. So anyway, I eventually moved away from Scotland, because you're all ostracizing me, it's not okay. And how dare you? And I moved back to Hillcrest, and I sort of went backwards, you know, because I was now living at home again, and there were people picking up after me, and I was living my lavish lifestyle again. I forgot all humility, and I was in this relationship, and I was trying to fix this person all the time, because they had no foundation of recovery like I had. And there's my selfishness, right? Oh, well, I'm over a year. You know what I mean? It's completely not okay. And anyway, it got worse and worse and worse and worse, and my recovery got less and less and less and less. And it got me to the point where I had no decision other than to leave, because too many things had happened. I had been very hurt. I had done a lot of damage myself, and all the evidence was there. This isn't working. Everyone was right. I'm wrong. At that point, my disease had kind of chosen a sponsor who was going through the same mess as I was, so it was great, because it was like, oh, well, me too, you know, if you're doing it, let's sink together. And yeah, anyway, I woke up one day, and I was completely and utterly broken, rock bottom in recovery, and I was 2 years clean and sober, not a substance in my body, and this rock bottom was worse than the rock bottom I had prior to going into treatment. So it was a huge wake-up call. I wanted to use. I was in constant conflict with everyone in my life, people in the fellowship, my family. Things were really bad, and I'd got myself there, and I kind of knew that, but I was still playing the blame game, and I was so incredibly sick. And the only place I knew where to go was the house on the hill. Like, that's the only, like, I just drove there. I remember the day everything was so like cloudy and things weren't okay, and I just drove there and I went to see the person who was my first ever sponsor, and I just said to him, this is what happened and you're all right, and I thought he was going to say, you see, I told you, you should have listened to me, now you've done this, and now no one can help you, and all of that. That's what I thought was going to happen. But what really happened was he showed me so much love. He didn't judge me once. He didn't say to me once, like anything I thought he was going to. And he sat with me for hours and just spoke to me and processed everything. And then he gave me a course of action plan that I had to do. And he was like, you need to follow this now. If you don't do this exactly how I'm telling you to do it, like, you're not going to be okay. You need to follow this now. Like, it's enough. If you want this, you want recovery, you need to now follow my suggestions. So then it started. I had to do step work again. I had to do 90 and 90. I had to fire my sponsor, and he became my sponsor again. I had to fire my sponsees because I wasn't in a healthy place to be sponsoring people. And this was at 2 years clean and sober, so it was also very humbling, but I had that desperation again, like I needed to do it. And I sort of slowly worked my way back to being okay again. And I kept it really simple, you know. And what happened after there is I learned a massive lesson. I learned that, you know, the rules are there because of experience, not there because people are trying to be horrible. It's a suggestion because it's years of experience in AA, and there's certain things that I can get away with and that I can't get away with. And if I want an amazing life, I want an amazing recovery, I need to put an amazing amount of effort. Otherwise, I'm putting half-assed effort into my recovery, I'm going to have a half-assed recovery. And I didn't want that anymore. I was like, if I'm going to be clean and sober, I want an amazing life. Beyond my wildest dreams, I want those promises, therefore I need to work for them. And a big part of that was being of service and making it about others and making it about the newcomer, which I didn't really do as much as I should have at first. Like, I was of service, but so people could see I was of service. And I would go to meetings so people could see I was going to meetings, but I wasn't living that honest life in recovery. And it did a complete 360 from there. I became 100% passionate about recovery, and everything I did became about recovery, and I almost became obsessed with recovery then going into my third year of recovery. And it's amazing how quickly my life sort of changed from there, because everything I was doing, I was living in AA, and then I would visit the world, and my family started becoming okay with me again. I started making those amends again, and things really started getting better for me. That's the year I also studied. I studied drafting, and I proved to myself that I can actually study and excel if I put my mind to it. If I work hard towards something, I can get it. And yeah, I just started making it about others, and I completely got out of self, which is exactly where I was in self when I went through that mess. So yeah, it was a powerful year for me, year 3. And then obviously lockdown hit and COVID happened, and I couldn't get a job and things were kind of tough. And it's amazing how God sort of worked in my life there, because I got offered an opportunity to come and help out and volunteer at the treatment facility. And it was amazing. I never thought of that being something that I would want to do or that I would be good at. But the space I was in was absolutely perfect for that, because it's just where I was. I just wanted to be involved and help people. So yeah, I moved from my parents' home to a garage, and I started driving people around and helping out and making coffee and doing all of this stuff. And in that garage, I think I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. It makes me emotional because I'm just so grateful I got that opportunity. And when I look at the living conditions and how hard we worked and the hours we worked and everything, that's not something I would ever be grateful for. That's not something Jordan gets grateful for, but to be part of something and to be part of helping other people every day, there was something about that lit my soul on fire that I can't explain. It just became a passion of mine very quickly. And it's weird, it's not something I ever thought I'd be good at. It's not something I ever thought I would enjoy. But I kind of just went with it, and I really did enjoy it, and then eventually got employed as a trainee counselor, and it's just amazing how, like, when I get out of the way, my higher power provides for me, because I'm okay. And I know that if I follow this way my experience has been, I'm absolutely fine. Don't have to worry about that. It becomes about helping other people, because that's the stuff, that's how I need to give my gratitude for what I've got, is by giving it away to others. And I still have moments where I don't believe I'm deserving of being in recovery and of the life I have today and of the serenity and the peace of mind. Like when I'm having a really good day in recovery, I'm feeling like, oh, well, how did this happen? Like, I don't deserve this. Like, I was such a shitty person, you know? And then very quickly my higher power will give me a challenge, you know? And things will get hard again. And I'll have to work some spiritual principles and grow. And I think the biggest thing I've learned this 4th year of my recovery is that striving for perfection in recovery is wasting my time, because there's no way I'll ever be perfect, and there's no way, if I'm constantly worrying about myself, that I will ever be happy with myself. You know what I mean? And that's okay, because that's the unrealistic expectation I'll put on it, because I'm just Jordan, and as long as I'm doing things to the best of my ability, that's enough. You know what I mean? And it's never going to be perfect. I'm always going to get things wrong, and I'm always going to do the next wrong thing, and then need to work my program and do the next right thing. But it's about working my program, owning it, and doing the next right thing. Because when I let that stuff pile up for a bit too long, I start to feel irritable and discontent and not okay again. And then I go back to being that child that wasn't okay, that struggles to socialize and struggles to be genuine, because I'm not. Like, I've learned that me in recovery, I have to be 100% transparent with my sponsor about everything, and I have to, like, be of face value. You know what I mean? I can't live the way I was living before. It doesn't work for me. I can't get away with it. And since I've got there, I've kind of been okay with that, because it's just better, you know what I mean? It's just better living like that. So yeah, I'm really grateful today. I think I've said everything that needs to be said. There's one story that I have that I just want to share quickly before I finish, because it's quite a special story, and it's just how, like, attraction rather than promotion works, and how one addict helping another is without parallel, and it's all of that stuff which I really love. You know, I had a friend who was sort of an actor with me, who wasn't okay, and I always thought that this person was okay, because I felt like I was worse, you know. But my progression was just a lot faster. And when I was 18 months clean and sober, I went to see this friend by the suggestion of my sponsor. It was her mom's birthday, and I went there. And the deterioration, it was intense. Like, I couldn't believe how ill this person was, and it was quite a wake up for me. And I didn't do anything other than share my experience that I had, and that's all I have is my experience, what I went through, what I did. You know, I didn't forcefully try and get anyone into recovery. I didn't do anything out of sorts. I just shared my story. And that's what's so powerful about AA for me, because my experience that I've been through in my life, like all of those horrible things that I was so ashamed of, now can help someone identify and give someone hope for a solution. Because if I got out of that, so can you. It doesn't matter how far down the scale, it doesn't matter how different our stories are, like like we've been there, the feelings are the same, the way that we are is the same. And that person got better, and it's just incredible to me that that's all it takes. It just takes one alcoholic sharing their experience. You know what I'm saying? So I really hope someone got a message today. I was very nervous. I was a bit all over the place. I do apologize about that. But to be sitting here 4 years clean and sober, I don't feel like it's been 4 years. I don't feel like I'm any further along than anyone else sitting in this room, because for me it's a Just For Today program, and just for today I woke up, I got on my knees, I asked my higher powers guidance, I handed it over, I checked in with my sponsor, I drove to a meeting, and I shared at a meeting, and I'll do the same tomorrow, which will be Just For Today, and the next day, and that's what I'm doing now. It's a Just For Today program, and I love that aspect of it, because I don't have to worry about I should be here and I should be here. All I have to worry about is, okay, well, I'm doing things to the best of my ability in this present moment. And that's all I can do. And I'm doing the next right thing. And if I don't, that's fine. I've got step 10. Then I'll go and make amends where I've done harm, and I'll try better next time. And that kind of takes the pressure off for me and keeps it really simple. So yeah, thank you so much for letting me share and be of service. Thanks.